Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unruffled Ladies. This is our Facebook live broadcast today, and we are back with you. We are happy to be here. We're glad that you're viewing, or you may be watching the recording. That's perfectly fine. But today is a really, really beautiful day, and it's also a good day for us to come together and unite and just talk about some things that, normally don't get talked about in your day-to-day life, right? Especially if you're a parent, because our show today surrounds that. But once again, welcome to Unwillful Ladies. We are balanced, at ease, and confident. That's our motto for Unwillful Ladies: balanced, at ease, and confident. And we know that we can be that because as women, we were created and equipped with everything that we need to carry off our mission here on this earth as women. We have what it takes already. We just have to stay balanced, at ease, and confident, right? So, this afternoon, we are living in an era where children are divorcing their parents, and parents are divorcing their children. And I know that seems kind of harsh, but it truly is happening. And we have two powerful guests with us today, a mother and a daughter, who's going to share some of their encounters with how do you get past parenting disappointments. How do you get past parenting disappointments? If you are a parent, especially if you're a parent with older children, or you have teenagers right now, or, even as a young parent or having young children, at some point in time, you might find yourself experiencing just trying to get past some heartache, you know. Sometimes it's getting past where you yourself was responsible for making a choice or a decision, and it resulted in you being disappointed by your children, right? So today's really a good day. We want you guys to join in, um, share share the broadcast, and please feel free to comment, ask questions. That's what we're all here for. We're all in this together. Okay? Because if you haven't experienced it, then you know someone who does. If you have experienced it, then great, because you came through it and you're here to encourage somebody else who just need a little bit of support and help. Okay? So we have two guests today, Miss Benita Young and her daughter Jasmine Young. Welcome, everybody. And of course, our other host is Valencia, Pastor V, and the
Hey, y'all.
founder of Unruffled Ladies. She's not with us here today in presence, but she's here with us in spirit. She had some other things she had to address, but I know that she's going to be, watching. So thank you guys for coming. Pastor V?
Oh, I'm so glad to be back on today. I'm so excited about our topic. I believe this will be a life-changing discussion on today. Um, it's something that I found that many parents are currently going through, and I just feel like there's some parent out there who needs to know that there is hope, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like. Um, no matter you know the situation, that there is hope. There is hope. And so we just want to um, extend that out today. Make the message, make that message clear on today. I heard a word that went forth earlier today during service, and that word was good news. Good news. And so I
Mm-hmm.
just feel, you know, that God has good news for us in spite of what, you know, things look like. God has given us good news. We have good news. So Like I said, I'm just really excited about what we're talking about today. It really hits home for me from a transparent perspective. I'm going through a similar situation. Um, and so, I'm just ready to glean, I'm ready to learn, and, just stand firm and believe and see God, at work. So we just
Exactly.
invite you to come on in, tag your neighbor, share this broadcast. It may be somebody, if not you, somebody else that's going through something like this. Um, because the Bible says to think it not strange that you are having fiery trials. It's not an unusual
Exactly.
thing. For many of us, things like this
Exactly.
catch us off guard, and we get in a place of confusion and stupor, and we don't know what to do. We feel helpless a lot of times. And so, you know, God wants us to know that even in spite of this, he still have given us power to overcome in these situations. So we don't have to feel like we're helpless and that there is no hope. Um, and so I just want to, I want to I want us to be encouraged on today. Amen.
Awesome. Amen. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome, Benita. Welcome, Jasmine. Y'all just want to say hello and open up with your thoughts on the topic and how, valid or important it might be in today's world.
Well, it's important. Family is important. Um,
Mm,
it's not always the best thing. Sometimes with family, you don't always agree, and so sometimes, you get sidetracked or all the way off the track. But it's important to know the best way to deal with things when things get off track with family.
mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. Jasmine, what do you think about our topic today? Being a parent.
I would say just having conversations, candid conversations, is the best route for a lot of things. That would be the my whole overtone of everything of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So, we are going to engage today quite a bit. We have some questions, that we both might have some input on. Once again, everybody feel free to comment, okay? And we will be watching for your questions and addressing um, what you've shared. So, what emotional weight? We're talking about first the emotional impact. The emotional impact. The emotional impact.
Sister Roslyn,
So
but
the emotional.
before you
Go
go
ahead.
there, let
Mm-hmm.
let me ask, can you guys kind of like take us back to where you saw, um where you saw that there was, or can you pinpoint like where you saw there was like a
Where
disconnect, like
where it
in,
started.
yeah, like when you felt like, you kind of was at a disconnect and you weren't like, like on the same page, as mother and daughter, or just kind of felt
Well,
like you was kind of, you know, separated.
hmm it actually started um when mama passed away. That's
Mhm.
when it started because I had her my freshman year in when I was going to Bama. So I
Mhm.
had her my freshman year. Um and she stayed down at on campus with us for what one semester. My grades went down. Then my parents was like, "Hey, let's bring her back. You let us keep her, and you get your grades." Okay, so then that means she stayed, at home with my parents. And and they were raising her. So that makes it be a different situation anyway.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't watch out, you'll be siblings, basically. And so then once we got past that, you know, um, I came home and we started living our lives together, on a daily basis. And then um, years go by. Best time of our lives, everything's going great. And then mama passed. And when she passed, because of the situation, me as her biological mom I had to come into the realization that my mom was also the same. Um, although she was grandmama, she was also her mom. And that's some of them, so for her, when mama passed, her mom and her grandmama passed, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And so she went through changes. I went through changes because, my mom gone. Um, and it's like your person you dealt with daily. So a lot of stuff went on with us both trying to figure out where we needed to be with each other, and at the same time trying to deal with a great loss. Because at just we had never dealt with that before. It was brand new for both of us. And that's pretty much where the disconnect started, right through there. And it was also first year in high school when that happened. So it was a lot going on. Just on my side and on her side, was a lot going on. That's a lot to deal with your first year in high school.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's pretty much where it started. And so we was trying to figure it out, and then it went downhill some, because I won't listen to her and she won't listen to me. And that's you gotta listen to one another. That's probably one of the things that we both learned is listening to one another and not necessarily listening to respond or listening thinking that what the other person is already gonna say or thinking. You have to listen with open ears and not with ears that because you think know them and not necessarily life is about seasons. And so it's the same thing when you got kids, when you got children, when you got a spouse, at work it's seasons. Everything is about seasons. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have winter and summer and fall, and spring. It's 4 different seasons, 4 different environments, 4 different ways that things can go. If, like, say for instance, if it ain't cold enough, if it don't get cold enough where you are, when springtime come, you're gonna have a bunch of insects. But if it get just right cold, you won't have to be bothered with a ton of insects. So it depends on how that season go and how you deal with it too.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. That was that time frame where everything kind of just changed because, like she said, I did kind of view you and her as my siblings because that's who I was around every day. So it was kind of like after she was gone. At first, I thought of it as like I understand she's my mom, but I also looked at her as like it's kind of like a big sister type of thing, and I don't feel like she knew everything and like everything was supposed to be that certain type of way. It was just a lot of kind of coming to understand each other and where each other was coming from after we started kind of listening to each other to actual listen to what we had to say and not just assuming what the other person was going to do or say.
Because it didn't help that people that didn't know us they thought I was her big sister. Like teachers thought I was her big sister. It was interesting.
Okay.
I mean, she's being totally candid because I had classmates who thought she was my older sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's
that
understandable.
could be a compliment, you know.
It is now.
You know, you look like a sister. You're her mama, but you really
Mm,
like a sister, you know. But I hear
yeah.
I hear what you're saying, you know. Um,
That's
and
good.
just thinking about that, you know, what you were saying about uh it was like she experienced like a double loss, her
Mm-hmm.
grandmother and then her mom, and then having to enter into the freshman year of high school. I mean, you know, that's such a weight for you being so young, you know. And then one of
Mhm.
the other things, key things I hear you both were saying, you know, im- how important it is to be able to listen to one another, to really hear and understand where the other person is coming from. I'm learning that
Mm-hmm.
more and more because I have a tendency to kind of like, because I feel like I know I'm listening, but I'm also I have a tendency to kind of butt in and talk while the other person is still talking. So I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
this. Be quiet, let them finish, and hear them out, and then I might give a response. If even if it's if it's necessary, if it's sometimes it's not necessary, you know. So I'm learning that through the experience that I'm going through. Um,
What the both of you shared, Benita and Jasmine, like has to be said, it touches home for her and what she's going through. And it also brought back to my remembrance, my time of disconnect. You know, there was a
Mm-hmm.
disconnect between, me and my son. It happened so smoothly. We too were viewed. We too was like, I don't want to say we were being brought up like siblings, but for the very reason is because I had my son at 16. So when
Mm-hmm.
he came home to my mother's house because we were still
Right.
living with my mother, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
her, that was hers. That's how she treated my son. And it was
Mm-hmm.
only out of love. It was only out of love. But as time went on, it was kind of, me and his father didn't see it as being overbearing, maybe because we were such young parents. But as time went on, it even got to the point sometimes to where it's almost like we had to ask permission just to get him, you know? And that's how tight a grip she had on him. So as time went on and he grew and he was with me and was with his father, when we actually lived in the house together, everything was fine. He recognized us as his parents. Everything was good. But he had this mind frame that my mother, his grandmother, which ain't nothing wrong with it, that was the holy grail. Let me just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Nana's way was the right way. It was just the right way. And that's how he grew up. So the disconnect came because I wasn't the one doing the nurturing. You understand?
Mm.
I wasn't the one doing the nurturing. My mom was. You don't nurture every now and then, once a month, twice a year. A child needs to be nurtured every day. And my
Every
mother
day.
was there for that every day. Okay. So to narrow it down before we get to our questions, believe it or not, my son is 48 now. And God is just now answering my prayer. He might have answered it when I prayed it, but I'm seeing it manifest now. Me and my son have the best relationship now that we've had ever.
Mm-hmm.
My prayer is that, Lord, I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know why he feels this way. I don't know why we feel so distant. I don't know why he can't talk to me. I don't know why he's feeling this way. But in time through our conversations, I found out. But God answered.
Mm-hmm.
And today we have that relationship. We have that relationship. And his wife validified it by sharing with me one day a statement that he made to her. And it was, right now, my mother is my best friend.
Oh,
And
wow.
you can't, I can't even express what that did to my heart, you know? It's a beautiful thing when God does what he does and bring things all together. It's going to work out. You know, it always finds a way of working out, you know? So, we ready for the question?
Mm-hmm.
What emotional weight do parents carry when they feel disappointed or disconnected from their child? So, Benita, I think maybe, you can best address that one. What emotional weight do parents carry when they feel disconnected, when they feel disappointed or disconnected from their child?
I would
What's some
say
of the weight that you carry?
I would it's a heavy weight because you be trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out like how can you fix it? You
Mhm.
going through the emotions of trying to figure out, feeling like you're failing, feeling like you're trying to grab a hold of something and you slipping. You can't get a good grip on it. And so
Yeah.
um, sometimes you can get to the point where you feel like in talking to them, you might say the wrong thing that make the conversation go left. And so it's a very trying time. It's
Mhm.
just to explain it. It's a very trying time. Because you have to get yourself to the point where um, you're not in Jesus' way, not in the Lord's way, because sometimes we go through some things that He allows for our development. And as a parent, if you're trying to fix stuff and you're trying to fix it for your
Ooh.
child and you get in the way of the Lord, I tell my kids, my children all the time, hey, I don't want to be in the Lord's way because I don't want him to feel like he need to yank me out of here early just so he can get you to develop. And so I try to, at this
It's
point in life,
true
I
now.
try to make sure that I stay in my lane and I let him do what he intends to do for them. One of the things with them growing up was I tell all four of them, do not try to satisfy me, do not try to please me. Do what you think the Lord wants you to do.
Oh wow.
Uh-oh, we lost
I
her.
know. I
We
know
lost her a little
she was
bit.
gonna make a really, really good point on that right there. That right there.
Yes. Well, Pastor B,
Um,
share with us. We know that, you've experienced some weight.
oh yeah. That right there has been my temptation. Um, I had been battling because I felt like I wanted to fix it, and I just felt in my mind, and the Lord is dealing with me about that because in my mind I be done prayed about it and everything. And still in my mind, something in me just say, you could do this. Maybe if you do that, or maybe if you say this, or I'm just playing all kind of scenarios in my mind of what could I could do to fix it. And
Right.
sometimes I would
Yeah.
go off and try to do it, and it backfire. You know, instead of making things better, it makes it worse. So then
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a place of frustration. And now I'm beating myself up because I should have just sat still. I should have just sat still. Um,
Yep.
there have been many times I got really close to just wanting to go do something. And the Lord say, no, mm-mm, Don't
Yes.
don't you
Yes.
do it. And then I was
Yes.
sharing with Pastor about this. I said, I was just asking the Lord, Lord, is there anything I could do? Is nothing? Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm like, it's not anything I could do? And he said, he sent
Hmm.
me, he quickened the scripture where it talks about how Jesus left the 99 sheep to go after the one lost sheep. And I read that scripture. And he said, now, I left the 99 to go off after that one. So
Hmm.
I want to find him more than you do. And I thought to
Ha
myself,
ha.
oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Because I'm thinking in my mind, the way I'm praying, like, Lord, if he ain't come, if he ain't come around now, evidently, like, Lord, he ain't coming back fast enough to me. Like, I don't see
Hmm.
nothing, I don't see no indication right through here. But that don't mean, the
Mm-hmm.
Lord said, that don't mean I'm not pursuing him. He said,
That's
I
right.
left the 99 to come after the one lost, the one that was lost. And he said, and he didn't come back until he was found. He didn't come back until he was found. So that indicates to me that God is relentless
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to finding that one that is lost. He is pursuing them
Yes.
more fervently than we. I mean, it's nothing he won't. He will go to any lengths to go get them and bring them back.
That's right.
So in essence, he was letting me know, just rest in me. Just rest in me. Oh, go ahead, Lane. You was about to say a good point before you went out.
Oh,
Can
I
you hear me?
was.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you. You hear me?
Uh-huh.
I was saying, I was saying that you have to allow the Lord, you allow your children to do what the Lord wants them to do. It can't
Mm-hmm.
be what I think they should be doing, because what I think they should be doing could be way left, because like I tell them, he can see all things. I
Mm-hmm.
can only see what he allows me to see. But he
Mm-hmm.
knows what he wants them to do. He knows who
Mm-hmm.
he wants them to connect to. He knows who he wants them to deconnect from. And so, as parents, we're going off of what we can see,
Mm-hmm.
and how we think things are lining up. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the Lord can take it, go a whole different route. Sometimes it's a whole different way that they develop, even with their gifts. And so, like, as parents, when we get adult children, our job is to pray for them,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
solely pray for them,
Yeah.
and support them.
Amen.
Even if we disagreeing, we should support, especially in prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and and not
Right.
necessarily browbeat. I point into them, because you know sometimes parents act like they hadn't been that age before,
Mm-hmm.
and your child can't imagine you being that age either. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you allow yourself to let the Lord lead you in what to say to them and what not to say, because sometimes it just be right there and you be itching to say it. You just, like, but if you let the Lord lead you, he'll be like, he'll be like, it ain't time for that. Don't say
No,
that.
right.
And you just have to love them where they at right there,
Mm-hmm.
That's
and keep praying for them. When me and Jazz was in the heart of going through this, and it didn't last long, but it lasted long enough to to make us tired. But one thing my dad, his advice was, you're gonna have to let her just bump it, which is let her butt just bump the concrete. And when she get tired, she'll come back and she'll hear you. You just be ready and prepared to hear her. I had to train myself. If I'm being transparent, I had to train myself not to interrupt. Like, I had to
Mm-hmm.
train myself to intentionally listen, because if you listening to respond, then you're not listening. You got to listen to comprehend. So if I'm listening to comprehend, then I should hear what she has to say, and I'll see her true heart. But like, that took some work for me. It still takes some work for me now. Just sit there and listen. If I just be honest, but I do it because it works. Because sometimes people just need to feel like they heard, and you do need to
Right.
hear. You know,
Right.
you need to hear their side of the story,
Mhm.
and not necessarily just I got to get my point, because I didn't get to the point now where I don't have to make a point. What point do I need to make? Nothing. It's not. It's unnecessary. Some people do things because that can be kind of spiteful over
Mhm.
time. It could be because I'm just trying to. I got her told. I told him. What did I tell him? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Is it gonna motivate or edify? You know, because that's what the Lord wants us to do. Well, if what I'm saying making a point, I'm like, ha ha, I said that. But
Mhm.
it's either here or there, because it's not gonna make it better. It's what's gonna be best for the relationship. You have to
Mm.
care.
Uh,
It's like dealing with grandbabies. Do I necessarily care what SpongeBob is doing today? But my grandbaby care about what SpongeBob is doing. So I have to be like, oh,
Mhm.
it's SpongeBob. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But so it's the same way you got adult children. 'Cause mine will come home and tell me what happened at work, or what happened in the grocery store, or um, uh, some friends they have that you ain't necessarily always ready for it, because sometimes you just want to decompress, but we don't know what tomorrow holds. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I
mhm,
make sure that
mhm.
I enjoy every moment, and that's one of the
Right.
some
Mhm.
of my advice for my daddy too is you got to learn how to enjoy every moment, regardless as to whether it's making you feel good or making you feel sad. Because everything is temporary, it's going to change.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Wow. I truly hope this just this information that we have right now, even so far, is helpful. And I'm listening, and it just makes so much sense that the process the both of you went through, it was necessary. It was
Mhm.
Hmm.
necessary to get to where you are today. You know.
But
Um.
if just thinking back when my mom was in the hospital right before she passed, I ended up in the room with her by myself. And out of all the things that we had going on at the time, the one thing that she wanted to talk about was Jazz, and she told me pretty much how to parent her, and pretty much the steps that I needed to take um, to make sure that our relationship, stayed pretty much close. But I was so far in my emotions and my grief until that kind of it went over my head. So like I didn't put it into play until I started realizing, like, this is what she told me to do. This is how she told me to handle her. Um,
Mhm.
because one of her advice, one of the things because she got 3 siblings younger than her, and she was like, "You're gonna have to take Jazz out sometimes, and it just need to be you and her. It don't need to be the siblings." And hear what she has to say. And so when I look back
Mhm.
at that, I she was telling me what would be best for our relationship, and how it could evolve if I did what she was advising me to do.
Mhm.
But she gave me the recipe. It just got
That's
lost in the
good.
grief.
That's what I was going to ask you. When you think back at the time that she was sharing that with you, how did you receive it? That was the question I was going to ask you, but you answered it because you was so much
Hmm.
in grief, it kind of went over your head. But hindsight, thinking about it now, she you know gave you some good input and approach to use, right?
Hmm. Exactly, because now
Yeah.
we can sit down and we can laugh about things, or like Jazz likes to cook unique meals. I'm not always the best taste tester, but like she did something last night, and she's like, "You want to try?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll try." You know, because Jazzy way different than I eat. But I try. It was really good. It was good. Because she likes to do like different ethnic groups, but she good at cooking it now. I'm just I like the southern food. But like last night, she did something. I was like, "Oh, okay." But what was funny, we all liked it. It's like, "Oh, okay, she did that." Back in the day, you couldn't have paid me to try something, But like it matters. I get that it matters that I at least try it. And
Yes.
it's, instead of putting up a wall, that's not greens and cornbread.
So we're aware that sometimes guilt, shame, or pride can get in the way of reunions, unifying,
Mhm.
coming together, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's only after the detachment and the separation has happened, right? So
Mhm.
how does guilt, shame, or pride, you think, Jasmine, keeps families from reconciling?
Honestly, I do feel like it comes into play, especially like when you don't have candid conversations. So you're feeling as far as guilty about not saying something, not doing something, or feeling prideful that, you know, I'm in the right. I don't have to apologize. I don't have to do that. But, or even as far as like shame that stuff has going on and you don't know how to talk to them about it. But I would say for my mom, even when we were going through our issues, she did have like an open door policy. And so her main thing was like, long as you tell me the truth, we can get over anything. And so that was one of the biggest things with us trying to get back to where we needed to be, was just that I could talk to her about anything and not have to worry about, oh, she finna just lose her mind because I said A, B, or C.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good.
And I know we as parents, we can have that tendency to do that. We'll lose it.
Yeah.
We hear certain
Mhm.
things from our adult children that just don't sit well or sit right. We'll just lose it. But
Yeah.
we have to,
Be
like you said,
intentional.
train ourselves to just
Mhm.
hold it together, listen, and really understand what they really where they're coming from. That's
Mm.
a challenge for a lot of us parents, and we need to be aware of that. We need to be
Yeah.
Yeah,
aware of that.
you got to be conscious about it, because even with my son, he's 26, and probably about 2 years ago, I forgot what happened, and it wasn't his doing, it was one of his friends, and I was like, it might have to do with social media. I'm just going in, and I'm like, da, 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 I'm just going in. And so he was like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. And so he fixed it. Somebody had put something up on social media. I was like, no, no, that's not who we are. And so and they tagged him in, and so he did get it down, but but after a while, he came back to me, and he was like, he means what he's saying. He says what he means. He comes back to me. Because thing is, you say whatever you want to say to me, just watch your tone of voice. And so he came back to me. He's like, Mom, everybody not raised the way you raised us. And he was like, and everybody don't go to church, Mom. Everybody in church the way we in church. And so he goes, but what you can't do, Mom, you gotta watch your, if you want me to watch my tone of voice, I'm a grown man now, you gotta watch your tone of voice when you're talking to me. And so I got it, because what happened is, if you don't watch your tone of voice, then that automatically shuts their ears down. And
Mhm.
so, like, when he got through telling me, I said, you know what, John? I was like, you're right. You are correct. I shouldn't come to you like that, because you a whole grown man now. And so, like, now, I'm not talking to them like they 3 or 5 anymore. We on a whole adult level. We holding conversation. They watch what they saying to me. They always have. They tone of voice, because the one or two times when I thought somebody was being flipped, I'd be like, "Oh, who you talking to?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I'm talking to that wall over there, mama." And let me know, I ain't talking to me. I was talking to that chair. That was so they would get in trouble. But now, as a parent of adult children, I have to watch my tone and not talk to them like they 5 or like like they 10, which is an adjustment, But like you do it, you in order for you to have a good relationship with them as adults, you need to do it.
Yes. You know what scripture that reminds me of? It came to me right away in Ephesians, where it says parents avoid provoking children to anger, avoid provoking children to anger, but rather bring them up in the discipline, in the way that the Lord would have you to bring them. So sometimes we have to, the mistake or the incident happens before we can learn from it. Because there's been a few times I didn't know I was irritating or making my child upset or angry. I didn't know, but in their own way, they let me know after, some time had went by. So that's what I mean when I say you can't fix it until after it done already happened. You can learn now, you just have to learn from it, and correct the mistake, or that it doesn't happen in that manner again. But that's so true. Once we look at our children get grown, it's like, your son made a valid point though. I know, we have to be mindful, the tone that we use with our parents, the select words that we use. But parents also need to be mindful that you're dealing with grown folks. They're not just your children anymore. They're adults. They have their own lives. They have their own perspective. They have their own path, that they're going down. We don't know what God is going to choose and not choose for them to encounter that's going to bring about growth in their lives. That's why what you said a few minutes ago, Benita, sometimes you just have to take your hands off, step back, and let God do what he do with our children. So we were talking about those few questions were addressing the emotional impact, of handling, your children and stuff like that. Now we're going to address perspective and empathy. So how can adult children begin to see their parents? I like this question. Begin to see their parents as people with their own wounds and limitations. How can adult children begin to see their parents as people with their own wounds and limitations? What you think about that one, Jasmine? What can adult children do to just see their parents as, people who are not perfect? They going through something too, and they don't have all the answers all the time.
For some, I do feel like it comes down to birth order at times, because when you're the oldest, you see a lot more than your other siblings see. So you kind of already have empathy and sympathy towards your parents for everything that you already kind of notice going on. And I will say within my family, whether it's my mom, my auntie, or like my grandparents, they were always very candid when having conversations with me. So it's not like if anything big happened, I was left out of it or I didn't know anything about it. It was, this is what's going to happen. I just want you to get prepared for it and how we're going to address it. So I will say if you can being candid and having actual conversations is a big thing as far as like seeing them as people who have things going on, because if you don't know, you're just going off of what you see.
Okay, that's pretty big. I think parents play a big part on how adult children see them. The parent plays a big part of that. And the reason why I was saying it, we were sharing a little bit about it earlier. And then Pastor B, I'm gonna let you take a part in that, because I know you have something to say about that. But The reason why I say a parent has a lot to do with how a child sees you, because if the parent is rearing the child, nurturing them, raising them, guiding them, disciplining them with such an iron fist, so to speak, or pressuring them to do better, be better, remember who you are, you don't right? But there's no transparency there in the process. The parent is not transparent with them relating to their child, that I can understand how you got there. I was like that at one point in my life. It's amazing how much alike we are. I made that mistake too. Here's what I did. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But instead, some parents give children the impression that they've always had it. They always had it together. And that's the
Right.
farthest thing from the truth. And some adult children, they resent the fact, especially when they know, they resent the fact that their parents are, pressuring them and coming off like, how could you make that mistake? Haven't you learned that by now? How come you're not further along? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is a parent who's not being transparent and letting their adult child know, I can relate to where you are. It didn't happen to me exactly like that. I didn't do that exact thing, but I understand. And just because I say I understand don't mean I agree, but I do understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with a little
It
transparency.
it comes into play when you can have those kind of conversations with your child. Some people like to look like a superhero. I choose not to be a superhero. Because in being a superhero is it does not work, because you are giving them something that is false. But like, if we can hold a conversation about some things that happen with me, and something similar, or something, in the same neighborhood, then you're not the superhero, and they can hear from your experience. If you transparent like that.
Yeah.
So like, sometimes the conversations, they'd be like, you could say something you did back in the college days, I'd be like, Mom, what? You know, and still at that, they still, because I still believe my son think I'm a superhero. Because it's just he just don't want to believe some of this stuff. But like, you just have to, if you can just have a really calm conversation, you just, I my car was down for a minute, and he had to take me back and forth to work. And he was like, when he didn't have to take me anymore, he missed the conversations. Because you're just open and honest about some things. I think it just works better if you can do that, in a way where it's in a respectable way, not in a way where you trying to get them to do some stuff you did or thought you was gonna do. Because respect is still, is the center.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's us as parents being willing to open ourselves up. Many times we don't want to, you know, admit to our kids that, we messed up. We
Mm-hmm.
we failed, you know. And because we want to have that, we want them to look at us as, you know, good parents. But I think part of good parenting is being willing to be transparent and open with our children, for them to understand that, yeah, we made some bad choices.
Yeah.
And these were the consequences we had to suffer behind it. And
There
but we
you
don't
go.
want you to go through what we went through. So that's
That's
why,
it right there.
we're having this discussion, so that we can help you to avoid what I did, you
That's
know.
it. That
Um,
right there.
mhm. Not to
Help them
try to
avoid.
boss you or tell you what to do, but just to let
Right.
you know to help you avoid, so you don't have to go through what we went through, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I think that's the
And
intent of most good parents. But if we would just be more open with our children, not say you gotta tell them all your
mhm.
business, but the things that's important,
Yes.
that they need to know.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to shock them. They need to have a good shock about your experience, because a lot of times you tell them what happened with you as a parent,
Hmm.
they'll be like, "What?" Like, for mama, like,
Yep.
yeah, you know,
Yes.
and that kind of be like, okay, that kind of help put the things in perspective for them. Like, oh wow, if that happened to
Hmm.
my mom, or that happened to
Hmm.
my dad,
Oh,
I really need to be paying
yeah.
attention. You
Yes.
know,
Yep.
so I think
Exactly.
it's a good thing.
No doubt.
Hmm.
Benita, I'm sure she'll be back on with us in just a little bit.
Yeah.
We are at the mercy of technology and Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. We created it, but now we're at the mercy of it.
Hmm.
I don't, I don't get it, but it's necessary. Um, oh, here's a good one. How can parents learn to release control and accept their adults' children individuality?
Mm.
Mm, mm-mm. We don't want me to speak on that one. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. How can parents learn to
Oh,
release control and accept their adult child's individuality? How can parents learn to release control? I
mm-hmm.
didn't. I'm just gonna go on and tell you, I didn't learn. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
learn how to release control. You know what happened?
Mm-hmm.
One out of three of my kids, the one I tried to control and keep 10,000 apron strings tied to her,
Mm-hmm.
she taught me. She taught me how to release control. She let me wear myself out doing exactly what you just mentioned, Pastor B, protecting her from making mistakes, protecting her from being hurt. As much as I love her, I was the problem. I was
Mm-hmm.
the hindrance. I was the roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
I had to move myself out the way. God couldn't even do what he wanted to do with her because I made myself bigger
Mm-hmm.
in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm telling you truth and facts. Truth and facts. I did not learn how to release control from my adult daughter's life.
Mm-hmm.
She told me. She let me know it was time. Her simple words was, "Mama, you have to let me go. You have to let
So,
me go."
so Jazz, when did you see, or when did you feel like your mom released you to be the individual person you know that you are? When did you feel like she came to a place where she released you?
I want to say probably in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like kind of me navigating my whole like medical career type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my sisters, bodily fluids are not their thing. But for me, I could talk detail about a surgery I just saw or about a procedure that was done. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm pretty sure at times she didn't want to hear me talk in graphic detail about what I saw and what I was doing at the time. But, she humored me. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, do you think you want to do it something like that? Do you think you want to do it this way? And I think once we got to that point of her kind of seeing me as different than my other siblings, then that's when we kind of started to get way more on track.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
good. So, Benita, the question that we asked was, how can parents learn to release control and accept their adult child's individuality?
That goes back to letting them be who God made and anointed them to be. That's where
Mhm.
that goes to, because I might think, I might think, oh, she's so brilliant, she needs to be some kind of doctor, you know, but that might not be the call. And sometimes even with watching them, you think it's gonna go one way and it flip and go a different route. Um,
Mhm.
you just have to let God do what God do, and support them, and what it is that they feel that the Lord wants them to do. Because that's my thing.
Mhm.
Because like I said, I'm not trying to leave here early because I'm in the Lord's way. I just think if I stay out the Lord's way and pray and let Him do what
Mhm.
He got to do, all this well, and I can stay here in my lane and enjoy, my children and my grandbabies, Um, who knows? Might get to see some great grands. I just want to make sure that I am in the lane that the Lord wants me to be in. I think
Yeah.
it's better for the relationship. She can stomach some things I can't stomach. So like when somebody get ill or somebody cut something on themselves, and she comes in running to fix it, and I'm so thankful. Because I probably in my lifetime I probably passed out maybe twice, maybe three times, and
Okay.
that's not my calling. That's not what I do, and she does it very well.
That's great. That's absolutely awesome. I'm really glad to hear that, you both have recognized each other as adult women, not
Because
just a mother and a daughter. Yeah.
the one thing that I had to do, like if you prayed a prayer and ask the Lord to show you yourself, you better be ready.
Mm.
Because
Ooh.
sometimes things are great and sometimes things are not great, and you be like, what was I thinking? And so I had to go back to her. I had to go to her and apologize because He showed me myself. So I went to her and I apologized for neglecting to do things, or doing things that I shouldn't have done, or saying things a certain way I shouldn't have said it. I had to go back and apologize to her, and she received it well. Um, we just kind of went back on some things that transpired, and some things that I should have done, and I didn't do it. Um, but with everything with Jesus, if you do it in the right time and the right manner, is well received. Is when we go out on our own.
Mhm.
Um, because
Yes.
like I said, it's not the most comfortable thing when you pray that prayer and then Lord starts showing you, how glorious you wasn't.
That right there. That
Yeah.
part.
Mhm.
Pastor V, although
Mhm.
our time has been well spent, I can't believe how much time has passed by. But Pastor V, do you see some questions there that you feel it's important to be asked and addressed for our audience? Um,
Yeah,
like
I
it
was.
might be a big concern for everybody.
Yeah, the one that I wanted to bring about was and that's for those that's in the heat of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and this is in regards to communication and repair of the relationship. My question is how do you set boundaries without completely shutting the door on the relationship?
Mm.
Well, one of the things I'm going to suggest is something that we used, um, in in talking. If it get to a point where it is, it's going left, or it's making you feel not respected, or it might seem hurtful. You need to have like a code word, you know, um, that's when you say barbecue chips. It could be the code word. You say barbecue chips. It'll be like, oh, okay, you bag back, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people need space to what you kind of say, to really understand what you're saying, or digest what you're saying, or
Mm-hmm.
everything can't it didn't mess up in a one day. So to fix it in one day, you know, that's unrealistic. Over time, you have to learn um, each of the triggers. You
Mm,
have to learn
mhm,
some things you just don't have to say or just don't have to do. I think in speaking, or sometimes, especially with my other two girls, um, they have, I forgot what their code word is, but when they play so much with one another, until sometimes they say stuff and it cut them, and so they have to say their code word so the other one will stop. That's pretty much how we deal. So we'll know, okay, hey, you're going too far, and then you just stop, and then
Mhm.
you have time to go back and talk about it, but at the same time, you're listening. You're listening to comprehend and not listening to respond, and that's
mm,
a big part of it. That listening and being
mm,
able to know that the conversation is received. You have the boundary, is there. Therefore, that's why you're using that code word to shut it down. Because
mm,
sometimes you
Mhm.
go too far and
mhm,
not knowing that you're going too far. You have to do things like that to keep, so you can stay family, so you can stay kin to one another. Um,
mhm,
you know,
Mhm.
I think it works for us,
mhm,
because most people see us and they see that we're really tight. We're
mhm,
real close knit.
mhm,
And so, and keeping it
That's
that
good.
way, you got to have things in place
Mhm.
that will keep it under control, so to
mhm,
speak.
Mhm.
mhm, mhm.
That's good. It
Yeah.
sounds like there's a lot of intentional effort
Mm-hmm.
to stay united as a family there. Jazz,
Mhm.
you have a closing statement for us on the topic where you that young parents like yourself can be helped with or that might support them.
In all honesty, I had to kind of understand that, my mom had a whole life before I got here. So it's not just that. And
Mm.
also, if we're going to have a conversation, I, I would say like sometimes a neutral zone is needed. Some places, not all the parents, not all the child, whether it's like a park or say a restaurant, they're going out to eat and talk about things there.
Mm-hmm.
That could also be helpful as well because it doesn't feel like one person has higher ground over the other or you're invading another person's space to have that conversation.
Mm,
And
mhm. That's
then
good.
that safe word is a big one because sometimes you do go a little too far. You do need to be like, okay, cool, maybe just need to take a break, come back. Now we can talk about it because it can be a lot to have that conversation and it can be very emotionally charged when having that conversation. So
Mm,
sometimes when you get overloaded with things, you do need to kind of take think about what's going on and come back.
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Awesome. Awesome.
that's really good.
Well, um, ladies, our time is spent. We do want to thank you for being here today. Thank our audience. Y'all make sure y'all um, join us again for the fourth Sunday in February on the 22nd. Happy Love Day to you. God is love, so we should have
Mm-hmm.
plenty to go around and share, right? Pastor B?
Uh, yeah, this was a really great discussion. I wish we had more time to kind of dig in a
I
little more,
know.
but hopefully for the short time that we were on, I hope that, you know, that you were able to glean something. I certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the list being willing to listen and
Mm-hmm.
setting boundaries as far as having a code word if the conversation get too far out. Set your code word in place so that you can keep things under control, and keep the unity and the communication open. um I think that's
That's
very important. And then, of course, Jazz said something really, another key thing about having a neutral zone,
Mm-hmm.
where both people
mm,
can feel like they're on the same level or the same ground talking, as opposed to one having an advantage over the other. So I think those are very key things. And so, with that said, I'm going to note all of that down and try to incorporate that for myself and just, prepare myself, you know. Um, and so I just want to thank you guys for just, taking time out on a Sunday afternoon and sharing your story and, breaking it down to us, um, what the steps of reconciling looks like
Mm-hmm.
and giving us hope, in the process and not to give up, not to give up. I
Nope,
think a
nope,
lot
nope.
of us parents, we get so exasperated with how it's just not happening and how we don't see anything, from the other child that we just kind of get in a place where we just kind of give up. But God don't want us. Don't give up on your child. Don't give up.
Because
Don't
he
give
is
up on your
always
relation.
working in the background.
Yeah, don't give up on your relationship. You
Mm-hmm.
know, just keep
Yeah,
covered in prayer and and allow God to do what needs to be done. So,
that's key.
mhm,
That's key right there.
mhm.
Thank you, Benita. Thank you, Jasmine, so much. You ladies, I celebrate you. I celebrate your lives. Thank you, Pastor V. Thank you, audience, on today. We'll see y'all again on the fourth Sunday in February, which is going to be the 22nd. As Lady Gina would say, find somebody, solve somebody's problem. How she said, Pastor V, find somebody whose problem you can solve. Be somebody's problem solver. You
Mhm.
get what I'm trying to say, right? But
Mhm.
y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now. Thank you for watching.
All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank